Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just going to do a quick video on a little test that Chris Berry has done, an observation, a proof of concept. And again, he does very, very good work related to the flat earth. And so I just want to use this to explain obstruction bottom up across a flat surface, which I think has been shown in many, many videos explicitly. I've done one in my hallway. People have done it. Life is Short, his channel, I would say, is authoritative in the sense that he's proven it in a much more rigorous way because he's used two cameras, one of them showing an object, one of them not, and which shows that it has line of sight to the object across the hallway. And then he also doubles down and puts the mathematics behind it and explains the mathematical underpinning. So his channel, it looks like for now, is the authoritative one. But again, what Chris is doing here to me is excellent. It's a showing that the angle that a person is viewing anything at any distance matters. It sounds insane for us to have to even prove this, but this is an excellent example of how important it is. And then it will motivate and be the underpinning for the reason why objects do indeed get obstructed bottom up, even across flat surfaces, which again I've shown in my hallway. I've walked to the end of my hallway and you couldn't see my feet, my socks, and all ballers can say is that my hallway's curved or bumpy or wavy. There was no line of sight. That's the reason why we can't see it. That's insane. And so Chris takes an extra step here, an extra measure to ensure that the surface that he's doing this test on is flat. And it's good. It's a test anybody can do. And so just to understand why this is such an important thing, ball earthers claim that any object that where you can have line of sight to the top and the bottom, it should always be visible to the same extent, whether it's the top of the building and the bottom. And so that's their claim, that even though the distance to the top of a building would be slightly higher because of its elevation, it's negligible if we think of Pythagorean theorem. But if we can see the top of a building and we have line of sight to the bottom, they both should be equally visible. And flat earthers, especially ones who are kind of deeper into these optical debates, we know that that's not the case. We know that the bottom is not as easily visible when it is moved away a significant distance because of the angle that our eye is making to it relative to the angle that our eye is making to the top of a structure. So elevation is always favorable mathematically to the human eye, and that is our point as flat earthers. And so Chris demonstrates that here, and like I've said, has been demonstrated elsewhere. And so once this point is shown, that a ball earther's understanding of line of sight being the only thing that matters to be able to view something, once that fails, I don't think there's any reason to really engage them in any really discussion on optics, because their foundation is just false. Their understanding of optics and limitations that appear due to the angle that the optical device is making with the top and bottom of a structure. It's incredibly important, and Chris shows that here. So just to use an example to motivate this even further, how important this test is that if we just think about this logically, if we are standing, let's just picture in our brain a perfectly flat surface, thousands of miles long, and somebody puts a Lego block, let's say a mile away or 2 miles away. Obviously, no one would expect for us to be able to see that one single Lego block a mile away. But because again, it's just now it's small, just due to its distance away. We can't see the top or bottom of it. However, if we were to put thousands of those Lego blocks on top of each other and build a structure that is 1, 2, 3, 4 miles high, it's obvious that we would be able to see the structure, and we would see it build, and we would be able to tell. We could even tell the person as they're building it exactly when we start seeing it. How many blocks does it take for us to start seeing it at all? And so that is a proof. That is actually a rigorous proof of objects can indeed be obstructed bottom up. In this case, strictly by distance away, we cannot see it. And so as that structure gets larger, taller, the way we would express that mathematically is that obviously the distance to the object is not changing appreciably. It's the fact that it's elevated, and so the angle that it's making to our eye is increasing, and so we can now see it. It's not a contrast issue. Let's say that we have perfect visibility. It's not changing or time varying as the structure is being built. So let's eliminate those variables. Let's think of it purely isolating our eye with a Lego block, again, resting on a flat surface, and then keep adding one Lego block on top of each other. And, just big, thick ones, a big structure. And then no matter what, the bottom layers will never be visible, no matter what. And so that is proof, really, that an object can very easily be obstructed bottom up. And we see that in many, many images anyway, because we live on a flat stationary Earth. And Chris is proving this, so he's about to do a demonstration where he has a card with a red line on it. And think of that red line as the base of this building. Think of this really, really tall building that's being built a mile away from us. And so with the human eye, of course, we're not going to be able to see the foundation layer. That's just obvious. But as the building gets built, there is a point where eventually we're going to notice, something is being built there. And again, we could even say the exact moment that we can see it. And then so we would know from that point prior, all of that stuff is not visible. But at some point, as they keep building the structure higher and higher, we will be able to see it. And so the top will be visible, but not the bottom, even though we have line of sight to both. And so that's what Chris is. He's first laying the foundation of the angular impact, to determine visibility. But we get for free after that, as a sort of corollary, that items will indeed be obstructed at the base. And the height, if it's high enough, will have a strong preference to our eye to be able to discern that it's there. So let's see his test.
Chris.
No problem. So this is something I was telling SC after Jose show today. I'm not sure if you caught any of it. It was a real shit show. But anyways,
I went on the second hour for a little bit when I was going to drive to get my kids.
I may have even gone on after you. I'm really not sure.
The other gentleman speaking is Travis, The Plain Truth. He has also a good channel related to flat Earth material.
But anyways, they were talking about angle of attack and all these things, and so I had some discussions with Bob, the Alliance guy, and a few others, and they were wrong on a few things, right on a few things. But the point of this video is to show that the angle can change with both distance and height, and they're not secluded from one another. So in other words, if you change height, you change angle. If you change distance, you change angle.
It's like a slide rule.
Exactly. Yeah. And then if you change both, you get an even larger amount.
I know, dude. I know.
So let me show you what I did here. So I have this white 5x7 piece of paper, and I drew about a 3/4 to an inch red, so you could just sort of differentiate. The next thing I did is, this is on about a 6-foot table counter in my kitchen. So the other thing is, I did about 6 points worth of level check. So I started here, you can see it's level, and I move it down about 8-10 inches.
Yeah.
And stop it, let it reset, it's level. So that's 2. Here's the third point, it's level. That's 3. So 4th point level. I think I do, so this one and then maybe one more. So
that's what I did with the floor in the Walmart.
Right. And then, so this is called, I think it's 6. I lost count.
Level only works on a flat Earth. It's obvious, but the only reason that this level will show level across a straight surface, a flat horizontal surface, is if the Earth was level, because that's what this is measuring it relative to. But I think it's good what Chris is doing. He's reaffirming to anybody that this surface is straight, even if it was angled or whatever, it doesn't matter as long as it's straight. The important thing that he needs to show people, and he's doing it here well, is that there's line of sight. And so that's the biggest issue in the quote theory that ballers have items being able to be as visible on the top and bottom is that as long as line of sight is there, they hold that they both should be equally visible. And so this is what it matters. Even if this table was tilted down, but it was still consistently tilted and quote straight, that's all we need to do any kind of test related to optics. You can do this kind of a test on the side of a building, looking upwards, again, as long as that surface is straight. And he's confirming that here, that this is a straight table.
And so I did 6 points to show that it's level. Oh no, one more. So that's 7, maybe 7 points to show it's level all the way across. So now what I'm doing is I'm zooming in on the iPhone. This is an iPhone, and now I'm at the end of the table, about 6 feet away, and I'm pointing up about three feet off the counter looking at. So I had a fun combo with SC, and I asked him, I'll ask you the same question. So I'm going to lower the camera. What do you think is going to happen to this image, to the picture?
So first he's showing the bird's eye view on a flat or curved earth. You know, if you have enough elevation, eventually you'll be able to see certain things, even if they're really far away. So this is good. He's kind of calibrating the test, showing the kind of extreme case, and then he's going to do a test in what's called in the limit for people who understand mathematics, and a lot of ballers don't, so you have to explain what that is. And so he's doing right here kind of an extreme example, a very, very large angle of attack, and then he's going to alter it, quote, in the limit, and reduce the angle to close to 0.
So you're going to leave the level in the same place. The only thing you're going to do with your camera is lower it.
Correct.
My prediction is that, I guess, depending on what's in your viewfinder, the point at which the whole field of view converges is going to be the point of the most significant change. I mean, everything's going to change, but I don't know if I can answer your question.
Let me rephrase the question. So you see the white 5x7 card still in the middle of the frame, and you see the same 3/4 inch worth of red. What do you think's going to...
In my in my preamble, just for us in that test, again, I was doing it over many miles, but again, this can be exaggerated over a larger length. Just know that red line represents, let's say, the first level of concrete bricks for that building that I was talking about. That's a mile away. That's what this is equivalent to if we were to expand it out to a larger distance and a higher structure.
What's going to happen to both the red and the white as I lower the camera?
Oh, you're not going to be able to see them.
But why not? There's nothing obstructing it, right?
It becomes an issue of the angle at which your eye can resolve an object at the distance and angle that you're viewing it.
Okay. Well, so that's a good guess. I'm just not sure you're right, because I don't think things can be occluded or obstructed just because you change the angle. Let's find out.
Okay.
Chris is kind of playing devil's advocate there, which is good. I think he knows, because he's done this prior, and I think Travis kind of knows kind of what's going on as well. He's kind of being put on the spot, but it's obvious. It's like, again, if you put that thing down on the surface, you may not even be able to see the actual piece of paper very well, much less the red line.
So I'll start to lower the camera.
Yeah, when you were asking that question earlier, I thought you were talking about looking at the level, not looking at the piece of paper.
No.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Where did the red go?
Oh, you're ahead of me. I'm watching the video.
Oh, you're watching the video. Watch the zoom. Well, you can watch the video, but now
hold on. I'm viewing your screen, so hold on. Are you showing me what's on your tab? You're showing me
So it's just it makes all this stuff with flat Earth, everything really about the flat Earth truth is that it's us returning to common sense, and just real things that we can observe. These buildings that that building that I was talking about in that just theoretical exercise, that mental exercise. that building's not moving. People who are designing buildings like that, they don't account for the earth moving. So we're all going back to our senses, to common sense. And Chris is using a very elegant, simple test here to show that, as he reduced the angle, you don't see the red line anymore, And so the argument that ballers may use is, well, you're not supposed to, it's a very, very thin line. And so that's true, but the mathematics still needs to hold, for any example, if we were to, quote, blow this thing out to a larger distance and a thicker red line, let's say, again, the first layer of foundation for a high rise, it's still going to hold. It's not like the math will be any different if we were to blow this thing out to a mile away and then, a high rise that's hundreds of feet high. It's the same thing. And so it's the mathematics for that would not change with the mathematics to explain what we're seeing here. Again, across a perfectly flat surface, we can't even see, we may not even be able to necessarily notice that there's a piece of paper there. And so the red thing is just a good visual that he's put in that we can see, with a higher angle, and then as we reduce it, we can still see it, and then there's a point that's not even necessarily at the 0 degree where we stop being able to see the red line. And so angular resolution absolutely matters. Anybody who's doing mathematics and formulating, what we're seeing across a flat surface would definitely include that. I think it should be obvious. It's like almost funny to say that. That would be a variable, an extremely important variable in the mathematical representation of any of this. And that's why we know that ballers are out of their mind. First of all, they're not going to do any of this because no one would be motivated to do this kind of analysis, because everybody who would do this would be a ball earther trying to support ball earth. So if one were to do it, and I would say Life is Shorts is the best thing that I've seen so far that will go into this, that it is a very, very important, and in this case, the most important variable to determine what we can actually discern in the distance, even across this relatively short table. So this is, it's going to be difficult for people to wiggle out of this. All they'll be able to say is, well, we shouldn't be able to see it, whether it was flat or curved, but you walk a baller through, a lot of them don't really understand mathematics or anything about optics, or they're willfully ignorant, that this is just the first step. And so let's say that Chris left the camera there on the table where we now no longer can see that red strip. What if we added another red strip on top of it of the same thickness of that paper? What if we added a third and then a fourth and then a fifth and then a sixth and then a seventh? Eventually we would be able to see that something's growing there. Even right now you can tell that you can barely even see that there's anything even laying on the table down there, but you can when you raise the camera up. What if you increase the thickness of the whole piece of paper? Definitely of the red strip. After you increase it by a certain number, eventually you're going to notice, yeah, man, there's a structure actually at the end of the table. But that's not going to magically make this red strip reappear. That is permanently hidden, quote, hidden, from being visible, no matter what, at this angle. And so that is actually showing that it will permanently be blocked, obstructed across a flat surface. No matter what, you can build as high as you want. It's not going to bring that bottom layer back into view just because you're building on top of it. And so as the structure gets higher, more and more of those red strips are built on top of each other. The eye will then be able to discern the top of the structure, again, because there's now an angle that is non-zero, and where a person can now latch on to what is happening at the end of the table. So again, this is a shout out to Chris. I feel bad a little bit for taking his work, but he does very, very good work overall. And I hope he doesn't mind me doing commentary over this, but excellent test. And again, objects can and do get obstructed bottom up across a flat surface due to angular resolution. And it's compounded actually in real life across water and stuff because of what's going on in the atmosphere. And so it makes the bottom even harder to see. Then angle or quote height of the building in the distance the top of it gets even a stronger preference to the eye because the channel, the quote channel that we're looking across water or anything, when we're doing this outdoors, is muddied even more. And so it makes the base, which doesn't have angle, which doesn't have a good view of it, even harder to see. And so it gets worse. Like I said, when the channel is statistical and time varying, like it is in real life. And so this is made worse, made harder. The obstruction becomes much more magnified to the top and bottom, but the bottom will always get muddied first. That just is common sense, and again, it's proven here in a rigorous way that anybody can reproduce. Hope everyone's doing well. Bye.